This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Notorious Five, Part 3. When we left off, the Queen Mother told Angela and Maribel that she's moving out of the estate. While at the hospital, Miss Burney showed up and made amends with the Queen Mother and Angela. And when Anya arrived, the Queen Mother had her go with her back to the estate so she could pack. When they got there, Pops Andy was waiting for her in the foyer. When he asked Anya to wait for her mother in the kitchen, the Queen Mother grabbed Anya's arm and said, "Unless you're excusing our daughter so that you can confess, and I mean confess all, there is no need for her to leave this room." Pops Andy turned his back so that Anya couldn't read his lips and lowered his voice so that anyone traveling throughout the house wouldn't overhear him. And then he said, "I don't appreciate you spying on me, Bella. Then you accused me of cheating, threatened my life, and involved my son in this madness." The Queen Mother interrupted him and said, "I haven't told our children anything, and you got some damn nerve. Instead of confessing all, asking for forgiveness, and then putting in the work to save our marriage, you decided to try and flip the damn script. How typical. Let me tell you something, Anders. You can play dominoes. You can play the lottery. You can play with our grandchildren. Hell, you can play with Miss India. That is her name, ain't it? But after all these years, you should know better than to play with me. Now make yourself useful and take Q's children to see their mother at the hospital. She's expecting you. Anya and I have business that we need to attend to." Then, still holding Anya's arm, she led her to the kitchen. When they got there, they took the back staircase up to the second level. And instead of going to the bedroom that she shared with Pops Andy, she took Anya into the sitting room. When they got inside, the Queen Mother shut the door and told Anya, "We'll wait here until after your father leaves." When Anya signed back why, the Queen Mother said, "Because I don't want him to come up here and see me packing and try to stop me from leaving." When Anya asked the Queen Mother what on earth was going on, she said, "I'm leaving your father. And at the rate he's going, I don't know if I'm ever coming back." Meanwhile, Q has landed in the Dominican Republic. He's connected with the heads of the Lopez, Charles, St. James, and Baptiste families. Manny, Nigel, Idra, and Samuel. They told him everything that they've done so far to try to draw out JR, Raul Ramirez Jr., the current head of the Ramirez family, and all about their efforts to locate Donovan, to no avail. Manny said they have confirmed that they have him and they've provided proof of life. Unfortunately, we can't pinpoint where they have him located, though. We know where all their spots are, and we've had surveillance on all of them. We've done our due diligence, but they've got to have a location we don't know about. So, we've been snatching family members left and right. We've got the wives and children of JR, his right-hand man, and both of his generals. Q said, "And JR hasn't caved yet?" Manny said no. His right-hand man called his wife's phone, and when your Uncle Idra answered, he said they'll exchange Donovan for all of their family members and a seat at the table. Q said, "That can't possibly be serious. Not after that bull they pulled with my mother and Chance, and now Donovan." His Uncle Nigel said, "Well, what happened back in the day with your mother and Chance isn't all on them." And then he looked at Samuel. Samuel said, "I don't know how much your mother's told you, but back in the day, there wasn't a head family. All the families were equal. We had a cooperative of sorts, and when I seemingly took over the Baptiste family, I had big shoes to fill and a lot of competition for the throne. Played a little fast and loose with some work and kept the money and left the Ramirez family with the bag. When they pressed me, I refused to settle up. In retaliation, they hit the family house in Trinidad. I was demoted, and your mother had to clean the mess up. She laid down everybody who was involved with the hit that took the lives of our mother and my twin, Kay. She also paid the plug what was owed with interest and cleared the Ramirez family's debt too. But Raul Sr., he was angry as hell. When he had Bella kidnapped and she escaped and killed him and all of his men. She not only took out the head of their family, but she ruined their whole succession plan. She took out all his brothers and most of his cousins, leaving the Ramirez family struggling until JR was old enough and trained enough to take over. Without any older men in the family business, he had very little direction. So he's never been able to really get his footing, and he has no honor. And with us blocking the way, he'll never be able to regain position. Q said, I don't care about none of that. Please, tell me y'all don't either. Idris said, nephew, we haven't turned down his offer, but not because we trying to do business with him. We've been biding our time because your brother walked into that man's establishment and became a willing victim. Q said, I know my brother. He walked into that establishment with the intention of trading his safety for his children's. And they clearly didn't honor that. Otherwise, Veronica wouldn't be dead. Ain't no negotiating. Take me to where you have JR's wife and kids and get me his phone number. The bodies are going to pile up until I get my brother back. Late that night, Donovan was tied up in the basement of a meat market owned by a man who's indebted to the Ramirez family. As a result, the families have no idea about this particular location, and that's why they've been unable to locate him. The two men who are on shift watching Donovan just got a phone call from JR's right-hand man, and he's frantic. JR got a text from Q that included a photograph of his wife and mistress, both dead, and all of his children tied up, with a message that said Raul would have to come in person if he wants to negotiate, and he has to bring Donovan with him. The two men think that Donovan is asleep. He's been controlling his breathing for a little over an hour, and he appears to be completely knocked out. But he's wide awake, and he just heard the entire phone call. They also have no idea that he speaks Spanish. So for days, he's been listening and waiting. Donovan was snatched at JR's bar when he walked into that man's establishment, intending to exchange his safety for his children's, just like Q thought. He had tracked Veronica down simply by showing her picture in the children's to older women in the city and telling them the truth. His kids had been kidnapped. And as expected, they pointed him to the housekeeper. When he went to her house, he saw a man coming out of her house early in the morning. And then she exited, looking like she was on her way to work. Instead of following her, he decided to follow the man, because around his neck was an amulet that was almost identical to the one that Manny sent back to Texas with Maribel. When Donovan followed the man, just as he expected, he led him to a safe house. And later on that day, he led him to the beach, where the man intercepted Veronica and Donovan's children. It took everything in Donovan not to run over there, snatch his children, and get them the hell out of the DR. But he knew that that would not end the threat. If the Ramirezes knew that one of the Queen Bee's children had children, it would just be a matter of time before they would come calling. And when they did, it would be when the family least expected it. They'd be unprepared, caught off guard, and they'd have a repeat of the Newport family ambush. Plus, if he intervened now, he'd get his children to safety, but he wouldn't be able to handle Veronica's tale. She'd absolutely get in the wind again. And he knew that in a matter of hours, his brothers would be there to watch his six. So he decided to just stick to the script. A few minutes after the man engaged Veronica, she collected the children and got the hell off that beach. She took them back inside a very nice beachside house. And when Donovan looked up the property, he found out that it was owned by Claudia Davis. Donovan just chuckled to himself. He realized then that his family and Maribel were right. He needed to calm down, because had he would have found his kids weeks ago. He had all the information in his head, and he could have pieced this all together. But he was so emotional that he wasn't thinking clearly. When he and Veronica were in bed, she loved to talk about her dreams for the future. And he would half listen and half doze off. But now he remembered that Veronica told him she wanted to retire to the DR. He also remembered that on the one and only date the two of them went on that Veronica planned, when they got to the restaurant, the reservation was under the name Claudia Davis. And when he asked her why she used a fake name, she told him about a time when she was in college and she used her real name at a coffee shop. She got her coffee, sat down at a table, started working on some schoolwork. About an hour later, she got up to leave, and a man approached her, called her by her name, and pretended like he knew her, using details that he pieced together while he was observing her working at the table. Then he followed her home and almost assaulted her. From then on, she started using Claudia Davis as her alias. Anytime she was ordering coffee, making a reservation, or doing anything that required somebody to yell her name out across a lobby or open space in a place where there were strangers. So when the man left the beach, Donovan followed him back to a bar. And when he looked it up, it was owned by one Raul Ramirez Jr., Jr. Donovan stashed his motorcycle, walked into the bar, and said, "My name is Donovan Anthony St. James. I heard you was looking for me." Meanwhile, back in Dallas, True and Woody are sitting at the hotel bar. True said, "Listen, let's establish some ground rules here real quick. This is a ruse. It's a job. I'm undercover. I'm not your woman. Don't touch me." Woody said, "That's not going to work. We got to make it look good. We got to make it look real." True said, "You kiss and touch on women in front of your mother and your family?" Woody said, "Nah, not like that, but we got to at least hold hands, or I got to put my arm on your shoulder." True looked up at Woody and said, "Now how you going to put your arm on my shoulder? I'm not even 5'2", and you're 6. Woody said, "I'm 6'5", little mama." True said, "That's cute and all, but you're going to look a little stupid putting your arm on my shoulder." Woody laughed and said, "Be easy, little mama. I'm just saying, we got to look like we like each other." True said, "All the people I know in relationships don't like each other. Well, I guess except Angela and Q and Regina and LJ. But all the other people I know, they don't like each other. That's why I don't do relationships." Woody said, "Well, we going to have to sleep in the same bedroom, though." True said, "And you can sleep on the floor." Woody said, "Why you acting like we ain't never?" True said, "I don't remember. You do. I don't." Woody said, "I say we remedy that and get it out the way." True said, "Oh, it's out the way. It was out the way when we started doing business. Now, you're going to have to at least tell me some stuff about yourself, about your life, so we can make this look good. I can't be your girlfriend and I don't know you or anything about you. And I'm sure your family don't want to hear about how you bust your gun." Then Woody proceeded to tell True about his childhood, growing up in Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, New York, running the streets with Q, what it was like growing up with 2 older sisters. And then Woody asked True to tell him some things about her life. True told him about growing up in North Carolina and being the middle daughter, having 4 sisters, about her family's restaurant and why she left, about being best friends with Stephanie and Rennie all her life. And Woody said, "Sound to me like you always played the background." True said, "I like the background. I can do what I want, when I want to, and nobody pays any attention. It sounds to me like you the apple of your family's eye, being the baby boy." Woody said, "I might be my mother's youngest child, but I'm the most responsible one. I take care of my family. It's the reason why my mother's always trying to marry me off. She seems to think I'd make a good husband and father." True said, "You sound like that's not in the cards for you." Woody said, "It's not. I don't live the kind of life that a husband and a father should live. By the way you go around booking 2 hotel rooms in every city, doesn't sound like you the marrying type either." True said, "'Cause I'm not. I told you, all the married people I know are miserable. They either divorced, getting divorced, or cheating with the person they wish they would have married." Woody said, "So Stephanie and Corey having problems?" True said, "I didn't say their names. Mind your business." Woody said, "You ain't have to. I ain't stupid. It's got to be some reason you want to go to that end of the convention gala on Saturday instead of kicking it with me and my peoples. Gonna look a little suspicious, you going and me staying with them." True said, "Well, you gonna stick out like a sore thumb." Woody said, "How about I get all jazzed up, go with you, and wait in the car?" True said, "All right, cool. Now how we gonna tell your family we met? I don't think it's gonna sound good if I say I picked you up at the bar and slutted you out."